live from beautiful Casa de Clark in Independence, Iowa. It's Unemployed with your host, Matt Clark. Promotional consideration for this episode paid for by the country of Mexico. Trump? Really? What the fuck were you people thinking? We're gonna build a wall. Sure, that's gonna. Here's your host, Matt Clark.
Greetings, Internet, YouTube, children of all. It's I, your unemployed superhero, coming to you live on the 9th of December, the day after my 2-week anniversary of my exile from employment. It's about 2 sometime in the afternoon. Fresh from the shower, with the JP100D over the shoulder, Max the Wonder Dog, Casa de Clark. Greetings, it's Friday. What a week. Don't lick my mouth. What a week. Yeah, I know, you're happy to see me. What a week. Yesterday went pretty much according to plan, surprisingly enough. Pop didn't give us too many problems. He's doing pretty good right now. Things are moving along. He's kind of getting acclimated to his surroundings, not causing anybody any trouble, which is a surprise to me. So yesterday went pretty well, I have to say. Not a lot of problems yesterday. Got some exciting news on the employment front. I actually had 2 job interviews today, believe it or not. They were phone interviews, nothing, that's why the beard's still scraggly and the hair's all messed up. They were phone interviews with a couple. I've actually got my foot in the door on 3 separate job opportunities, 2 of which had interviews today. Pretty excited about it, actually. Hoping that these turn out, at least one of them anyway. Pretty good job interviews this morning. I have a lot of the skills they're looking for. One of the positions I may not be a complete fit for, but I'm pretty optimistic of the positions themselves. So we'll see. We'll see if they lead to regular interviews with hiring people. That'll probably happen sometime next week, if it happens at all. Still marching our way relentlessly towards Christmas, which, if I don't hear anything I think I've pretty reserved, how can I put it? I'm pretty much thinking that I'm not going to get a position until probably the first of the year. That's the gut feeling anyway, that even if these 3 jobs I'm looking at turn out to be, one of them turns out to be a good prospect, my guess is I probably won't learn anything substantial to the first of the year. We've only got about, a couple of weeks before Christmas. Is Christmas on a Sunday this year? That's interesting. We only got basically a full week before Christmas. So I don't expect a lot to happen the weeks of the 19th and the 26th of December, maybe the 19th. Even with 2 full weeks, I don't see a company getting me a job interview next week and then having me show up for work the week before Christmas. That just seems kind of dumb to me. Instead, my guess is they probably will have me start after the first of the year if I were to get a job offer next week or the week after, even. So I'm pretty much resigned to being unemployed for Christmas. Yeah, I know. It's sad almost. It's like a country song. Um, but who knows? If they're desperate for help, they might bring me on before the holidays. There will be a solid week, it looks like, before New Year's. So who knows? It's still the 9th. There's still 3 weeks of December left. I'm just preparing myself for what I'm pretty sure is the inevitable. Not depressed, mind you, just the way things are. Heard on the news the other day. Have you been following Pizzagate at all? If you don't know what Pizzagate is, apparently, in Hillary's emails that were released by WikiLeaks, somebody plowed through them, has done an excessive amount of research in them, and discovered that somewhere in the emails, there's a lot of mentions about pizzerias. I'm not making this up. I've read this on a couple different websites. And there's a pizzeria in specifically, I think it's in New Jersey, called the Comet Ping Pong Pizzeria, something like that. That people believe that Hillary Clinton and some of her aides were using as a underground child sex slave I'm not sure what you'd even call it. Their home base of operations, I guess, for a child sex slave ring. That Hillary is all up in that. I didn't know what to say about that. Not a huge fan of Hillary Clinton. I think she's part of the entitled ruling class in America, whether you agree with me or not. I do believe she is. What do you think, Max? What do you think? Child sex slave in New Jersey? What do you think? Max don't agree with it either. Don't agree with it? Yeah, okay. Apparently, I believe it was yesterday, or the day before yesterday, a gunman who believed all that stuff went into said pizzeria and opened fire with an assault rifle. Wow. Here's the thing about media, about people in general. Everybody, come here and take a knee. Take a knee. Come on in. Take a knee. Uncle Matt's gonna tell you a little bit about human nature. It's a human nature lecture today. The majority of people, I believe that in the end, humans are pack animals. We are, like wolves. We're pack animals. There's safety in numbers, so to speak. And for the population of the world, not just America, but the world, there are very few alphas, if you will. The majority of people in this world are followers in a pack, and there are very few alphas. I think our human nature is designed to follow alphas for safety. That whole fight or flight syndrome thing. So when people see someone speak authoritatively, they tend to follow them because they seem like they know what they're talking about. It's very easy to do. For instance, I could say to you right now that I know for a fact that there's 5 more states in the United States that are planning within the next 3 years to change their drug laws to legalize marijuana. Iowa being one of them. That sounded authoritative. I have no idea if that's true or not. I just made that up here on the spot. But it sounded like I knew what I was talking about. It sounded, for a minute there, you're like, hey, that actually sounds like it's going to happen. For a minute there, you know, and that's you. And everybody knows the people watching my channel are intellectually superior than most, right? You go with me on that. So if you smart people out there heard me saying that, and it was complete bullshit, and you for a couple of seconds there were like, yeah, that sounds like it's plausible. Imagine what a weaker-minded person will listen to. Explains religion. You know, if I stand up there and talk about talking to God with an authoritative tone. So yeah, there's some human nature for you. It's very easy to get people to believe you're smarter than you are if you basically speak with an authoritative tone and don't allow questions. That's the big one. Don't let anybody question you. But speak at a non-questionable tone. Like, for instance, I know for a fact that in the first 100 days of his administration, that Donald Trump is going to plan to have all people whose homeland is considered a Muslim homeland to register with the federal government, especially if they're immigrants. Before you immigrate to our country from a Muslim, quote-unquote Muslim country, you have to be on a federal registry. That's all bullshit. I have no idea if that's true or not. I just made it up again on the fly. But it sounds plausible. And the way I said it was authoritative. That's the key, is to sound authoritative and to not allow questions. It's human nature. People follow. That's what we do. That's why there's coaches in football. That's why there's politicians. Most politicians don't know anything, but they speak from a podium and don't allow you to ask questions. I can say on a podium whatever I want, and if you can't ask me questions, it sounds authoritative. Now you know why there's rallies and things like that, and you don't normally meet politicians face to face. They don't want questions. They want to make statements that can't be quantified by the group of people in front of them, because you'll tend to believe it. That's human nature. That's human nature 101. That's how you manipulate people. That's how you become a cult of personality. Use it for good or evil. I could give less than a shit. That's just human nature, though. And explains why that guy walked into the Comet Ping Pong Pizzeria and started opening fire. He listened to people like Rush Limbaugh. He listened to people like Alex Jones, who I don't have anything against. They're just trying to make a living. God bless them. I wouldn't do what they do because personally I don't want to interact with all that many people. But take it for what it's worth. Half the shit you hear from pundits on television, half the shit you hear from politicians is total bullshit. But they say it with an authoritative tone and don't allow you to ask questions. So they get away with it. Again, human nature. Very simple. Comes from people watching. That's what I am. People watcher is another term for creepy fucker in a mall. That's another part of it. But I spent a lot of time working with people. I was a tech for a long time, PC tech. Been to people's houses and worked on their computers back in my younger days. So you meet lots of different people and you see the differences and the similarities with all of them. And the one similarity I have seen is that people tend to want to believe that someone's an expert and then follow them. It's just the way it is. So there you go. Got something to add to that, Max? Do you want to say something? Guess not. Well, that's Friday. Matt's pick for the weekend. Again, recommend Doctor Strange if you haven't seen it yet. It's worth seeing in a movie theater. I believe next week, Suicide Squad, the uncut version, comes out. I believe it's on digital right now if you want to like rent it on Amazon.com. Saw it in the theater, Suicide Squad. It's an okay movie. I'll tell you this. Of all the comic book movies that have been made, there's been quite a few over the last, 4 or 5 years. The Iron Mans, the Captain Americas, the Avengers, the Batmans, the Supermans, the Nolan trilogy of Batman movies. To me, there's been 2 movies that have really been comic book movies or adaptations of comic books to movies. That's Deadpool and Suicide Squad. Now, I'm not saying Suicide Squad is better or worse than any of the other ones. I'm just saying if you read comic books, it is a great representation of a comic book in movie form. Comic books tend to jump cut quite a bit. They tend to jump around in time somewhat. They're very staticky. And Suicide Squad has a very comic book vibe in that way. It jumps around in time. It jumps around in it's very jump edity. They do slow motion a lot in Suicide Squad, which to me, comic books are static, so they're like the ultimate slow motion. Deadpool does that too. Deadpool bounces around the timeline a little bit. So to me, those have been the 2 best comic book adapted movies. The other ones are movies about comic book characters. They're not really the spirit of comic books. In the DC ones, the Batman, Superman, the Nolan trilogy are not comic book movies. They're movies about comic book characters. They're very the Nolan trilogy are some of my favorite of all time, by the way. Superman, not so much. But those movies are movies written about comic books. Guardians of the Galaxy, one of my favorite comic book movies, it is not a comic book movie. It is a movie based on a comic book. That's hard to understand. I wish I could explain it better. Comic books have their own style. They're not novels. They're not stories. They're static images with words attached to them. They're very jump cutty, very staccato. I guess it's a good word for it. They're very staccato. And I think Deadpool and Suicide Squad, oddly enough, captured that staccato-ness. Now, people who make movies shit on the Suicide Squad because of it was kind of a jump cutty type of a movie. And I understand that because that's not how movies work. Movies are meant to be more fluid. You go from A to B to C to D. It's a very fluid thing. Whereas Suicide Squad is kind of disjointed because they jump around so much. So, and the tone changes quite a bit in Suicide Squad, which is a comic book thing as well. Comic book's tone tends to change on a dime. Jared Leto doesn't do a bad job as Joker. To me, to do a good Joker, you have to capture that any second now I can go from laughing to being a murderous monster. That quick flip is what you have to capture to be a good Joker. And he does capture it. He goes from being the clown prince to be a menacing monster in a heartbeat. And he did a good job of that. That's what made Heath Ledger so well as the Joker, is that he always had a sense of menace about him as the character. You were waiting for something bad to happen, and Jared Leto's Joker kind of does the same thing. So it did a good job there. So Suicide Squad, feel free to watch. If you haven't seen Guardians of the Galaxy or Deadpool, put your face in there. Put it in there. Go watch them this weekend. They're very good. Football is pretty much Army Navy, I think, plays this weekend. There'll be some FCS games this weekend, I think. Some Division A games on ESPN, but college football is pretty much over. Saturdays are pretty much over, for me anyway. Pro football is winding down. Weather's supposed to get bad here in Iowa this weekend too, so we'll see what happens there. So there you go. That's Matt's picks for the weekend. This is a good movie weekend with the weather turning bad in the Midwest. Not a lot of great television to watch this weekend. So I'm probably going to end up just watching some vidges. Some vidges on the TV. We'll see what happens. So that's my Friday. I'm going to go buy some groceries now before the deluge starts, so I have some food to eat around here in case I get snowed in over the weekend. This is one nice thing about being unemployed. If it starts to snow, I got nowhere to go. So, hey, that rhymed. I could rap. So I don't care. Let it snow. I give a shit. This has been your unemployed superhero, Max the Wonder Dog. Say bye, Max. Say bye. Okay. Max doesn't want to say bye. You have a good weekend. I will see you bright-eyed and bushy-tailed on Monday. And we'll talk about the week ahead. Take care. Stay sexy, San Diego. Take care.